Are you ready? 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 Are you
I am looking down at Earth from my spaceship, and I am filled with awe. It is such a beautiful planet, with its blue oceans, green forests, and white clouds. It is home to so many different kinds of life, from the smallest insects to the largest whales. I know that we humans have not always been good stewards of Earth. We have polluted the air and water, and we have cut down forests. But we must do better. We must all do our part to keep Earth clean and healthy. We can start by reducing our waste. We can recycle and compost, and we can buy products that are made from recycled materials. We can also conserve water and energy. And we can plant trees. Every little bit helps. If we all work together, we can make a difference. We can keep Earth clean and healthy for future generations. Only by cleaning your planet and stopping its toxic pollution, will humanity be allowed to join the Galactic Federation, and in doing so, being free to enjoy the many wonders of our universe. Failure to do so will result in an immediate invasion.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to Matt Taylor TV. It's approximately 12 minutes past 9 on the 1st of August 2023. My name is Matt Taylor, broadcasting live from Brighton. I hope these words see you well and healthy, because that's what it's all about, being well and being healthy. Hope everyone's well. I'm just waiting for YouTube to release last night's late night live. So I want to clip the bit when Plisco the Bellend came on. What a bellend! And of course we had the delights of Brian. It was good to have Brian on. Hope everyone's well. Let me see if it's down. No, it's not downloadable yet. It's not downloadable yet. Tell me where you're watching the show from. It may be that you're someone who has reported me to police and you can't identify yourself in the chat room. In that case, you shouldn't be watching. You shouldn't be watching. This isn't a silent participation event. This isn't TV. This is a whole new medium. This is YouTube. And I only ask anyone who's watching me to make yourself known. Don't be shy. Jump on in and say hi. Because you know you want to. Yes, you do. While we're just wasting time, I wouldn't mind just looking something up for a moment. Let me just bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. Bear. I like it. What I can go through is go. Oh, so have you checked out my latest blog? Let's get it up on the screen for you. Check out my blog. It's at The World According to Matt Taylor. There's my blog. If you haven't done so already, please check it out. The World According to MattTaylor.wordpress.com. I like to think you'll find something funny there. That's the one I'm looking for. Who are you voting for? The SOS, Save Our Society political party to reinvent the British political system. I mean, I don't expect to win in the 2024 general election, Brighton, Kemp Town, but I do expect to harness what's the word I'm looking? What's the technical term I'm looking for? The disgruntled voter, the protest vote. That's the one I'm looking for. I do intend to harness the protest vote in the coming Brighton Kemp Town general election. I've come to the conclusion that politics are far too a serious matter to be left to politicians. That's something General Charles de Gaulle said. To be specific, he did say, I have come to the conclusion that politics are far too serious a matter to be left to the politicians. So my general advice is to disobey everything. One man's political point of view, one man's mission to change the status quo, one man's mission to open the eyes of the nation to what's really going on. The establishment are a lying bunch of bastards who use their lies to enslave us, both politically and economically, keeping themselves in power and our eyes closed to their crimes. I think you may be wondering what on earth I'm talking about. I'll share the screen. Save Our Society political party. This is a party political protest, or even this is a party political broadcast on behalf of the King Arthur political party. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Matt Taylor TV, broadcasting live from Brighton. Disobey everything. I'm a man on a mission to open your eyes and strip away the veil of secrecy. Secretary, can you say? I'm terrible at spelling, isn't it? I'm a man on a mission to open your eyes and strip away the secretary cloaking the British political establishment. It reminds me of my article I wrote many years ago. I was very proud of it. It took me a year before I realised that I had forgotten to put the C in sandal, or rather C in scandal. So the sandal in the Roman Catholic Church, like I said, it took me a year before I realised I got a bit of C in sandal to make it make sense. So I've just seen a spelling mistake here. I'm a man on a mission to open your eyes and strip away the veil of secretary cloaking the British political establishment. Of course, what I should have said was, I'm a man on a mission to open your eyes and strip away the veil of secrecy cloaking the British political system. The British electorate needs to wake up and smell the coffee. Do not vote. Our government is lying to us on a gigantic scale. Most people wouldn't realise the scale of their deception. It's just too huge to comprehend. Together we can make a better future and a better way of life. If only we wake up to the crimes of our government is perpetrating against us. This is serious shit, and the powers that be are serious about keeping their shit under wraps. The establishment wants us to live in fear because they can control us better when we're scared. The establishment want us to live in fear because they control us better when we're scared. I think that was worth repeating. Listen to modern day heroes such as John Harris, where he won't be now because he's dead. Richard D. Hall, maybe not, he's been sued. James Corbett of Corbett Report, he's still out there doing his stuff, as is Alec Jones. Sadly, Ian R. Crane is dead. And Mark Cockin. Is Mark Cockin still doing the rounds? Talking about the Marks, I heard Greg Hallett discrediting Mark Windows, or was that Windsor, as a 77th Brigade. Oh, on the subject of 77th Brigade, can I all point you to a new article by Ben Westwood? This is a new press release by Ben Westwood. Ben Westwood is a child protection advocate. So I'm going to put that in the chat. If you haven't done so already, check out Ben Westwood. It's on a new press release has been published on Guerrilla Democracy News. Check it out. Learn more about Ben Westwood. So listen, we must learn the difference between common law and statutory law. Common law, in which we are all beholden to. Don't cause another human being injury or loss. But statutory law is a law we are not beholden to unless we agree to be beholden to it. And that's the backbone of the common man approach to making our world a better place. We can write off national debt, write off all personal debts, and introduce interest and debt-free currency. It's on its way. The people in the know. In fact, this would be a good time just to make sure we are subscribed to Neelu Berry, because I understand she has been in conversation. I'll have to dig that out, actually. She has been in conversation with Anthony Starfield, the ex-police crime commissioner, Lee Kant, Neelu Berry, Calgary. Oh God, my mind's gone blank at the moment. We'll have to come back to that. With the will to do so, we can end war, poverty, pollution, starvation, and exploitation in a single stroke. We can fight we can right the wrongs of mankind. It's easy to do so when within our reach. International bankers have become super rich as a direct result of our suffering. They profit from war and deception on a grand scale and make slaves of us all through debt. As of today, this was written in November 2010, our national debt is valued at 1.4 trillion. Imagine what we can achieve if we had 1.4 trillion to spend on ourselves rather than give to the bankers. It's important for us all to take back the power that currently resides in the hands of the elite ruling few. It's important to realize that everything we know to be true is a lie. My mother once wrote, "There is no truth, only facts and lies." This is serious shit, and we've all got to wake up to the reality. We are slaves and we don't even know it. 10 facts we must get around our head. Number 1, governments cover up. Number 2, false flag events are real. Number 3, justice is an illusion. Number 4, money is an illusion. Number 5, people are brainwashed. Number 6, all money is issued as debt. Number 7, bankers rule the world. Number 8, the police are a statutory run private organisation. Number 9, free energy is being suppressed. And number 10, democracy is the bullshit politicians fought up to keep themselves in power. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? But I warn you, ignore my words at your peril. The SOS Party is one man's political point of view, one man's mission to change the world. I don't pretend to know all the answers, but I know we've been had, we've been lied to, and we've been enslaved for evil ends. I'm standing up and declaring Stop in the name of the law. These crimes must be exposed and the perpetrators brought before the courts. Join me in heralding in a new world order. A new world order of free men and women, of free technology and power, free from pollution, fear and cost. A vote for Matt Taylor. Loving it. Loving it like that. We're loving it. Loving it. Loving it like that. So we shall stop screen search. I hope everyone's well. The world according to Matt Taylor. So oh, that's nice. So my video from last night isn't available to download. I want to do a few little clippings on that. Anyway, how are you? I know somebody's watching. I get the impression if you're not willing to leave your name, a rank, and number, you shouldn't be watching, should you? You shouldn't be, should you? Or are you just too shy? Are you just too shy to say hi? Is that it? Wow. I came across some old websites I've done 2010, so that's like 13 years ago. I came across some old websites from 13 years ago. My first investigative journalism. Oh, there we go. Thank you ever so much. Okay, thank you, Brian. Thank you. I'll just share with you an old blog. Partners in crime. Oh, you shouldn't have. Oh, Brian, you shouldn't have, buddy. Only because I will be getting all my stuff back. Oh, Brian, you're too kind. You shouldn't really. So yeah, this is Blast from the Past. It's one of my first investigation into parliamentary conduct. The problem I had with this, they were bringing in a law that didn't have a second reading. It went through on the nod. So they were introducing the Disabled Persons Parking Badge Bill that made a traffic accident as punishable as someone threatening someone with a knife. Okay? Anyone found guilty of using a stolen disabled parking badge will receive a minimum custodial sentence of 6 months. Philip Davies declares in the House of Commons on the 9th of November 2012. And I thought to myself, rather draconian for a traffic accident, don't you think? After all, most traffic offences occur at best, at best, a fine of 3 points and £65 for speeding, and at worst, 14 years for causing death by dangerous driving. The Blue Badge Bill will make the fraudulent use of a blue badge as severe as drink driving. Now, I agree. Misusing the blue badge should be, frowned upon by society. And what kind of people misuse blue badges? Philip Davies said in the House of Commons, I take the point made by my Honourable, the friend for the member of Christchurch. There can be problems if discretion is taken away from the courts, but there are not many nuances at play in this issue. it is not as if there could be lots of mitigating factors. We are talking about someone who is knowingly using a fraudulent parking badge to which they are not entitled. Perhaps I'm too strict on these matters, but I do not see that there could be much mitigation. I am sure that my honourable friend, who was a distinguished barrister, would come up with some marvellous mitigation for one of his clients, but I cannot say that I would be greatly impressed by it. It is therefore the kind of offence where a minimum sentence would be useful. At the time, I just thought very draconian. Let's put this into perspective. How many people hold blue badges in Brighton? 13,000. How many are disabled? It is fair. Is it? I ask this question. Is it fair to scare 13,000 disabled badge holders with 6 months of imprisonment and a £5,000 fine for abusing their blue badges privileges? But then again, if you are disabled and you're holding a blue badge, you've got nothing to worry about. This bill was meant to target the people who fraudulently made blue badges. The people who went out there and fraudulently made it. Philip Davies says there can be no nuances at play here in this issue. It's not as if there's lots of mitigating factors. Philip Davies goes on, my honourable friend makes a very good point, and I'm quite happy to be found guilty of being draconian. And I seem to spend my life in Parliament asking for more draconian sentences for a range of offences. I do not mind this describing me in that way, because there are far worse things to be described as when it comes to law and order. I would sooner take the tag of being draconian than the tag of being soft on dealing with crime. And Philip Davies teamed up with my MP, then MP, Simon Kirby, to bring in the Blue Badge Bill. But is it really law if it doesn't have a second reading and just goes in with a nod? Let me explain. Simon Kirby and Philip Davies are basking in the limelight of cross-party support. They are introducing a law which commits people to a 6-month custodial sentence and a fine up to £5,000 for fraudulently using a disabled parking ticket. That should be changed to fraudulently using a disabled parking badge. But what's worse is that it hasn't even had a second reading. No, it's had the nod. And this is the reason why I chose to expose this. Because laws, is it just me or is it just Parliament? But laws shouldn't be passed through on the nod. We have a process. Laws gets readings, they get second readings, and then they go to the Lords for a final, not final, they go to the Lords for their decision and then passed up the chain for final dissent by royalty. That's our process. It hasn't had a second reading. As Hansard quotes Mr. Chopper on column 1129 of the 9th of November 2012. The point that I was trying to make is that although the bill was discussed briefly in committee, it was never debated on second reading because it went through on the nod. Yes, you heard that correctly. Went through on the nod. We know this because it's quoted in Hansard. Quoted. Attributed to Mr. Chopper, who said on the 9th of November 2012, the point that I was trying to make is that although the bill was discussed briefly in committee, It was never debated on second reading because it went through on the nod. Order! The honourable gentleman cannot take the opportunity now to initiate a second reading debate, the absence of which he spends some moments lamenting. He must now focus his remarks on the new clause, accompanying new clauses and amendments. I feel sure that after that brief diversion, that is precisely what he is now minded to do. This was said by the Speaker of the House, quickly smoothed over his blatant example of parliamentary fraud. This is Burcott, John Burcott, the Speaker of the House at the time, who acknowledges that it never had a second reading, and lambasting a politician for bringing that up. So the bill will give sweeping new powers for plainclothes inspectors to have the power to confiscate any blue badge with immediate effect if it doesn't check out with the central system. You ain't having it. That's fair. The old style, what I was a bit concerned here was plainclothes inspectors. Jobs for the boys, maybe? Plainclothes inspectors to have the power to confiscate any blue badge with immediate effect if it doesn't check out the central system. You ain't having it. If the central system hasn't got a record of it, it's not yours, and we'll take it off you straight away. The old style cardboard badges have been replaced by new ones made from a hard plastic material which contains a number of overt and covert security features as used in banknotes and driving licenses. Overt and covert security features. Now that's interesting. Perhaps this is the real reason it's getting the nod. The government are putting in place a secret army of undercover inspectors whose job it will be to inspect ID cards which carry overt and covert information about its holder. It's all scary stuff, and by the sound of it, highly fraudulent and stinking of corruption. What else is going through on the nod, I ask? This is Simon Kirby's way of life. He's inundated with sycophantic praise. Listen to what Philip Davies says about him in the House of Commons. My right honourable member for Kemptown Brighton is steering the bill through with great skill, like an old hand. Indeed, if he can introduce a private member's bill that finds favour with my honourable friend, the member for Christchurch, he is doing particularly well. Certainly a lot better than what many others can hope to achieve, and I congratulate him on that. Yes, an old hand. The old handshake of the Masons has ensured this nasty piece of legislation is fraudulently passed through Parliament. But wait until you read what else I've dug up. And that's how I describe it. I describe it as a nasty piece of legislation. Yes, I agree. No one should be going out with fraudulent blue badges. But have we even determined how many people do that? Philip Davies was once an Asda trolley boy. Did you know that? As he is so proud to remind the House of Commons. This is a direct quote. I should make it clear from the start that this subject is very close to my heart. Members may know that before I entered Parliament, I spent a year working for Asda. Surely, I say, but it's so easy for the public to demand the resignation of politicians, and I'm not the same. But surely there must be some accountability of bringing through nasty laws on the nod. I write in capital letters, Philip Davies must resign. In May 2005, he was elected as an MP of Shipley with a majority of just 422 votes. 5 years later, he won the seat with a 10,000 majority. Dig a little deeper and you see he was funded by a private interest group called Bearwood Corporate Services, backed by Lord Ashcroft, with a margin so little and then so big, plus a dodgy connection with the corporate sector, it's easy to call the elections rigged. That's not nice, is it? At worst, a murdering paedophile, and at best, a paedophile sympathiser. My name is Philip Davies, and I'm a psychopath. That's not nice, is it? In December 2010, he appeared on a BBC Radio Leeds show, and amongst many topics, he was asked whether he wanted to see the return of the death penalty. The radio presenter said, "I want to talk to you about the death penalty. You'd bring it back, won't you?" Philip Davies says, "Yeah." "For who?" "For murderers." The radio presenter says, "What about paedophiles?" Philip Davies says, we can have a debate about that, like who qualifies." And then the radio presenter said, "Well, I think a paedophile could be worse than a murderer." And Philip Davies says, "Well, maybe. Let's not split hairs over this." No doubt that was a little video that took it to it. We can have a debate on who qualifies as a paedophile. Or was that we can have a debate on who qualifies to be killed? The radio presenter said, "I want to talk to you about the death penalty. You'd bring it back, won't you?" Philip Davies says, "Yeah." The presenter says, "For who?" And then Philip Davies says, "For murderers." The radio presenter says, "What about paedophiles?" And Philip Davies says, and laughs, "We can always," and stutters, we can have a debate about that, like who qualifies. Does he mean who qualifies to be murdered or killed in capital punishment, or does he mean who qualifies as a paedophile? I don't know. The radio presenter says, "Well, I think a paedophile could be worse than a murderer." To which Philip Davies says, "Well, maybe. Let's not split hairs over this." The constituents of Shipley should be asking whether Philip Davies qualifies as a paedophile. That's not nice. Did you hear him at the end praise Sharia law because it achieves lower crime rates in their countries? In this one interview alone, he comes across as racist and homophobic. Should we listen to it?
Susan.
Yes, actually. That was quick, wasn't it? Yes, and you can do all sorts of things when you're 16. You can join the army when you're 16, but you can't vote. I think our young people have tremendous sophistication. They participate in a lot of the activities that we were talking about earlier in the meeting, actually, in terms of what voluntary activity goes on in this community, in this young constituency. So yeah, I would be fully supportive of young people having votes at 16. Big campaign about it, and I think the Labour Party is pretty much convinced, actually, that it's out to consultation. Kevin?
Thoughts? Yes.
The answer is yes, again, absolutely. The Greens would lower the voting age to 16. I agree with everything Susan just said. I think 16-year-olds are already expected to do many things, and it's only right they should have the privilege of taking part in our democracy. And also, in a way, it's a responsibility, isn't it? And if we want our young people to grow up into responsible citizens, why not give them that responsibility when they're able to take it on? And just one last very quick thing from my personal experience. Obviously, I've worked with these sixth formers in Leeds, teaching history and politics, and they're excellent young people, absolutely fantastic. And based on my experience of working with them, there's absolutely nowhere in the world they are less informed about the world of politics than most of the people out there, or even some of the teachers that I work with. But I won't mention any names. So the answer is yes, definitely.
Thank you. Phil Davies. My answer is no. I think that there's always got to be an age at which we decide is an appropriate age for people to reach adulthood. and people might argue it should be 16. I think 18 is a perfectly good age. In fact, I've supported in recent years moves to, we've recently, the government, which I fully supported, said that people couldn't buy cigarettes until they were 18 rather than 16. And it seems to me rather perverse that we're going to say, well, people aren't capable of making those decisions at 16, they can only make that decision at 18, which I agree with. And then on the other hand saying, however, even though they're not capable of making that decision, they are perfectly capable of deciding who's going to govern the country. And I think we need some consistency here, and I think there should be one age at which we decide that people reach adulthood, and that age should be consistent, and at that point they can make all of these decisions for themselves. And I personally think that the appropriate age to make all of those decisions is 18, and I don't support reducing it to 16. When it gets to 16, presumably then the campaign will be for 14. And I mean, I don't know where this ends, but I think you've got to draw a line in the sand and say there's a certain age at which people are responsible enough to make all of these big decisions about their lives. And I personally think that it's 18. I think we all felt we knew everything when we were 16. I think at the end of the day, 18 is a much more appropriate age to make all of these big decisions.
Yeah. I actually agree with him. I actually agree with him. Here he is speaking at a hustings in a church hall. He gets up and says no to the voting age to be lowered to 16. He cites that there should be an age when children turn adults, and in his personal opinion, that age should be 18. Here it is at 1 minute 35. He gets up to speak, and in doing so contradicts himself by asking what qualifies as a paedophile. Does he? I don't think he does.
To get married at 16, that's a pretty fundamental basic decision, isn't it? And you should be old enough to vote. I think the other thing that might well happen as a result is we might get tuition fees abolished. Thank you.
Hello.
My answer is no. I think that there's always got to be an age at which we decide.
I don't know what I meant by that. So I'll repeat this for dramatic effect. At worst, he's a murdering paedophile, and at best, he's a paedophile sympathiser. I think that's a bit much. I don't know why that was said, actually. I want to remind you of their reasoning behind introducing this bill, he says. I think, firstly, I'd just like to say I think it's totally out of order for Philip Davies to be called a murdering paedophile. At worst, he's a murdering paedophile, and at best, a paedophile sympathiser. I don't know who wrote this. I do. I wrote it back in 2010. But this is disgusting. This is disgusting. I don't know how I came to this conclusion, and I don't know how I even came about printing this stuff. But let's carry on. I want to remind you of the reasoning behind introducing this bill. So this is their reason: to stiffen the penalties for people who fall foul of the rules, who abuse the blue badge scheme and knowingly take places away from people who need them, and to treat such offences with the seriousness with which many constituents treat them. People are appalled by those who abuse disabled parking spaces and who use blue badges when they are not entitled to them. I seek to punish them properly. I seek to punish them properly. Or in plain English, punishing people for using a space that they do not need and denying it to somebody else. That's his backbone, isn't it? That's his backbone message. And I do apologise for calling him, at worst, he's a murdering paedophile, and at best, a paedophile sympathiser. That is totally out of order. But I do acknowledge that back in 2010, when I wrote this, I wrote it for dramatic effect. But still, that doesn't make it right. I seek to punish them properly, says Philip Davies. And I asked the question, who is this man? A psychopath? Here is a definition of a psychopath in case you doubt my opinion, I said back in 2010. Psychopathy is a personality disorder that has been variously characterized by shallow emotions, including reduced fear, a lack of empathy and stress tolerance, cold-heartedness, egocentricity, superficial charm, manipulativeness, irresponsibility, impulsivity, criminality, antisocial behavior, a lack of remorse, and a parasitic lifestyle. His hypocrisy levels are off the scale and well in line of a psychopath's, I said back in 2010. Philip Davies claims more expenses than any other Bradford MP, and that's a fact. We've all heard of the biblical saying, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone," all except Philip Davies. When former Labour Minister Dennis McShane faced a fresh police investigation after he resigned as an MP yesterday for fiddling his expenses, Philip Davies was the first proclaiming from his soapbox, raising serious questions about whether Mr. McShane is guilty of criminal behaviour. The quote says, "If someone has committed an offence, then they should face the full force of the law, and to be protected by Parliament privilege is most unsatisfactory." Now, as I remind everyone, back in 2010, Philip Davies, he received more than 10,000 in benefits from companies with links to the gambling industry. The fact he claimed parliamentary privileges when the spotlight was turned on him, and it was found out he received more than £10,000 in benefits from companies with links to the gambling industry. While a member on the influential Parliamentary Select Committee, Philip Davies championed the industry's viewpoint during the year-long investigation into the betting industry and visited casino resorts in Australia and China's Macau. I think it's pronounced. Yes, it is. Macau. To see high rollers in action. So in his defense, he answered, "To be perfectly honest, it never even crossed my mind. I think it is fair to say that everyone knows I used to be a bookmaker. I did not think I had interest to declare." Wow. I mean, this is why back in 2010, I was so draconian, for want of a better word, towards Philip Davies. Here he has criticising one person, but yet himself receiving £10,000 in benefits from the gambling industry, and then being himself on a select committee, an influential parliamentary select committee in that was looking into the gambling industry. And he says, "To be perfectly honest, it never even crossed my mind. I think it's fair to say that everyone knows that I used to be a bookmaker. I did not think I had interest to declare." Philip Davies claims more expenses than any other Bradford MP, and that's a fact. The voters of Shipley should hang their heads in shame. When are they going to make amends and demand their MP face the full force of the law? Watch this footage of him sitting on a committee session holding the BBC chairman Chris Patten to account. No, sorry, that page is no longer available. Philip Davies asked for a full itinerary of Chris Patten's daily work for the BBC. Chris Patten laughed the question off by saying, "I think it's a thoroughly impertinent question." But Philip Davies refused to back down. "So you don't think licence fee payers are entitled to know how much specific time you are spending working on their behalf?" This is interesting because I'm going somewhere with this. So here we have Philip Davies demanding, okay, maybe wrong word, asking for a full itinerary of Chris Patten's daily work for the BBC. So we have a Philip Davies. Let's all get this straight. Philip Davies, MP for Shipley, on an influential parliamentary committee. He was sitting on a committee session, holding BBC Chairman Chris Patten to account. Now, of course, I fondly remember Chris Patten as the last governor of Hong Kong, because he was a governor when I was out there, and we crossed paths a few times. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? Me and Chris, we crossed paths a few times. Leave it at that. No more said about it. So I'm a friend of Chris. So there you go. This is what I love. So Philip Davies asks Chris Patten for a full itinerary of his daily work schedule. Chris Patten laughs off by saying, "I think it's thoroughly impertinent question." But Philip Davies comes back, oh, really? So you don't think license fee payers are entitled to know how much specific time you are working on their behalf? Now remember that. That was his comeback. So you don't think license fee payers are entitled to know how much specific time you are spending working on their behalf? And he hammered this point home further by saying, given you have been presiding over a shambles at the BBC, I think it's perfectly reasonable to say, have you been actually putting in the hours, putting in the yard as you should have been as chairman of BBC Trust? I want to pinpoint this. I want to highlight this. Philip Davies having a go at Chris Patten by saying, but have you actually put in the hours? After nearly 6 minutes of Philip Davies droning on about trivia, Chris Patten brings a close to the conversation with, you know what, I'm not sure this Socratic dialogue with you is getting us very far. Philip Davies, and we're going to come back to this, okay? We're going to come back to this. Here we have Philip Davies lambasting Chris Patten, saying, isn't it reasonable that the license fee payers know exactly what you're doing, specifically what you're doing on their time? We'll come back. Philip Davies and Simon Kirby, Simon Kirby was the MP for Brighton Kemp Town at the time of writing this. Philip Davies and Simon Kirby should be given a taste of their own medicine. They need to be locked away for 6 months for defrauding the public, for taking up the space of 2 MPs who could be better used by more competent people. Again, so I'm just giving back. I'm just throwing back what they throw out. Here we have Philip Davies and Simon Kirby bringing in the blue badge under the excuse that anyone who fraudulently uses a blue badge is taking up someone who needs that space. And I'm saying, doesn't this apply to the MPs themselves for taking up the space of 2 MPs which could be better used by more competent people? Let's go to part 2. Here we go. Let's just watch this. This is Chris Patten.
Philip Davies.
55% of your employees are women, and 12% are from ethnic minorities, which I think compares with 8% of the public at large. Do you have a target for how many women and ethnic minorities you think should be working for Channel 4?
We don't have a target in relation to women, because I think the gender balance across the channel is in balance, and that works well. In terms of ethnicity, because we are based in central London, I think we would expect to see our ethnicity at a high.
My mistake, that isn't actually Chris Patton. So, introducing Philip Davies sitting in judgment of Channel 4's equal opportunity credentials in front of a select committee. Yes. He babbled on for nearly 9 minutes, asking the same question to all 3 of the Channel 4 executives who showed up. Just watch the equally tiresome Tom Watson MP, who, opposite him, showing dirty mobile phone pictures to his chum sitting to his right. Just look at the body language of everyone in the room. They all look at Philip Davies as if he's a despicable imbecile. Near the end, he sums up by asking why he doesn't give up his job to someone from an ethnic minority. Oh, come on, we got to watch this. This looks fascinating.
Philip Davies. 55% of your employees are women, and 12% are from ethnic minorities.
So that's Philip there. We also want you to look out for, you can see my cursor, I reckon. Look out for Tom Watson here, but Philip Davies is here, so let's go on.
Minorities, which I think compares with 8% of the public at large. Do you have a target for how many women and ethnic minorities you think should be working for Channel 4?
We don't.
Do you have a target for how many ethnic minorities and women should be? Interesting question.
Have a target in relation to women, because I think the gender balance across the channel is in balance, and that works well. In terms of ethnicity, because we are based in central London, I think we would expect to see our ethnicity at a higher level than the general population at large, and in particular at higher, more senior levels of staff across the channel. I think we want to see the proportion of people from BME background in particular increase, and we've been working hard on
Welcome everyone. We're just
Increase to what?
I have to look at that.
looking at an old, this is one of my first
Well, I mean, this is a
investigative
process, and
exposures.
we recently
This
established a
is
monitoring system for recruitment. Representation of ethnic minorities amongst the permanent staff is currently
This is the
12%.
select committee
2008,
quizzing
11%,
Channel
so
4
it's gone up very
chiefs.
slightly. The skill set figure for the AV sector as a whole is 6.7% on their 2009 census.
Welcome everyone. Welcome.
Representation of those with disabilities amongst permanent staff is currently
It's 8
around
minutes,
1%.
but it's worth it because I
So
want
that is
you to
obviously
check out
low, and we'll be
Tom
addressing
Watson
that
showing
on
his
and off the
buddy
street with our major initiative around the Paralympics.
some dirty pics on his phone.
And in the last 3 years, we've trained over 120 people.
This is
from
13
vulnerable
years ago,
disabled
I
backgrounds.
think.
I've
Maybe
read all
even
of them,
longer.
but what I'm getting at is that you're a national broadcaster. You're not a London broadcaster. You're a national broadcaster. Your proportion of staff from ethnic minorities is 12% against a national figure of around 8%. So nobody could criticise Channel 4, it seems to me, for being underrepresented amongst ethnic minorities. And yet,
Look, there
in
you go.
your report, you talk about
Tom Watson nudged his mate.
Channel 4 offering bursaries
He's
to
just been given
African,
something.
Caribbean, Bangladeshi and Pakistani students on a city university diploma. Was that open only to people who were African, Caribbean, Bangladeshi and Pakistani? Are those bursaries available to nobody else?
I would need to check the detail on that and come back to you.
Well, if you could let me know. Do you think it's appropriate for a national broadcaster, with the figures that I've just quoted, if they were open only to those people? Do you think that would be appropriate? Do you not think that these things should be open to everybody based on merit and ability and inclination?
Well, I'm quite certain that those criteria were used, and we would certainly want to see society represented in its diversity across our screens and in our content, and indeed that is written into our remit. But of course, the details of this particular programme we will indeed come back to you.
65% of participants on Channel 4's work-related learning programme were from a diverse ethnic background. 65% against a population of 8%. Does that strike you as being an appropriate sort of level of sort of a broadly representative level?
Well, I think we're part of obviously an industry initiative at a leadership level in seeking to address the general level of underrepresentation that exists in terms of minority interests across the whole industry. And in certain instances, one obviously needs to make focused efforts and focused initiatives in these areas. So it's part of an overall effort to make sure that we are accountable to the makeup of society overall.
There are mentoring opportunities for 6 individuals partnering with Operation Black Vote, presumably they were for ethnic minority people only. I mean, it seems to me that if you look at your figures, the people who are underrepresented in Channel 4 are white people, not people from ethnic minorities. So it seems a bit bizarre that an organisation that's overrepresented amongst ethnic minorities.
Anyway, you can all check this out yourself. Check this out yourself, mate. Politicians, they are without doubt the most boring fuckers in the world, aren't they? Let's not swear. But anyway, the constituents of Shipley should be asking questions of him. Why doesn't he give up his job to someone from an ethnic minority? I challenge Philip Davies to put his money where his mouth is and swap roles with me. Yes. I'll go up to Yorkshire to do his job and receive his benefits, and he can come down to Brighton with his bum chum buddy Simon Kirby and receive my benefits. So let's look at what Philip Davies gets up to, and this is going back to what he said to Chris Patton, okay, in part 1. You can go to part 1. I just want to remind you all what he was saying to Chris Patton. He was saying to Chris Patton, it's perfectly reasonable to say, have you actually been putting in the hours? Putting in the yard as you should have been as chairman of the BBC Trust. Don't you think licence fee payers are entitled to know how much specific time you are spending working on their behalf? This is it. Just as he asked Chris Patton, aren't the licence fee payers entitled to know how much specific time you are spending working on their behalf? Couldn't that be asked of the Shipley constituents? Let's look. Let's look at specifically what Philip Davies got up to on your time. This information is taken from the They Work For You website. We find out that Philip Davies serves his constituents by filling out surveys and being paid between £70 and £150 for doing so. Good work if you can get it. Again, I've reminded you already, but I would like to remind you again. Remember him saying to Chris Patton, so you don't think licence fee payers are entitled to know how much specific time you are spending working on their behalf. So listen, this is public information. Surveys completed for Comres for Millbank received £75 for participation in November-December parliamentary panel survey. It took him 40 minutes to earn £75. And then he received another £75 for 30 minutes. So this is what Philip Davies is doing on your behalf, working on your time. He's filling in surveys for between £75 and £150. It's shocking, isn't it? It's shocking. But isn't it interesting what an amateur investigative journalist can uncover? And this is just scratching the surface. This is just scratching the surface of the public information available on the internet. Shouldn't his Shipley constituents be asking what he gets up to? He spends his days filling in surveys for a little extra cash on the side. That is on top of his wage of £65,000 a year back then, 2010. He gets for working for your interests, and the £171,000 he claimed in 2009 on expenses. The guy is ripping you off while pointing at others and saying, no, you're the one who's ripping us off. 599 pound, £100,599 of that was taxpayers' money, which he claimed to cover the staff costs of others doing his job, while he sat in London doing surveys for a little extra cash. So this is what this man is getting up to. He's claiming his wage, and then he's claiming expenses to pay other people to do his job, while he sits in his House of Commons office earning a little extra on the side by surveys, which take anything from 30 to 40 minutes a pop. You know very well that's what he puts down. He's doing these surveys in 5 minutes. In fact, it wouldn't even surprise me if he was getting someone to do those surveys for him. No, I'm sure he was doing it himself. That's unfair. That's unfair. I take it back. So his office costs came to £14,603. It's a lot of money to spend on office costs, isn't it? About the same as is his communication bill. What communication costs £14,931 a year? I don't know. My communication costs amount to monthly charges on the mobile phone, landline, broadband, and it doesn't come anywhere near £14,931. I've run an office with my business partner, employing more than 10 staff, and our office running costs never came anywhere near £14,603 too. So not only did he fraudulently deprive the taxpayers of £64,766 in MP's salary wage, that was back in 2010, a further £100,599 on staff costs, and a whopping £295,534 office and communications. But he claimed a further £23,866 to stay in London and do it. This is huge amounts of money. Huge amounts of money being taken from us by these greedy hypocrites. As I make the point, this man has no remorse for his actions, which demonstrate his psychopathic qualities. And it's a fact. It's a fact, and I believe it's been repeated 3 times on this exposure. It's a fact. Philip Davies, as of writing this, 2010, claims more expenses than any other Bradford MP. We haven't even started on his views about the disabled, which his blue badge legislation is meant to serve. He caused outrage and anger by suggesting that disabled people should work for less than the minimum wage to increase their chances of being taken on by employers. This is what he said. If an employer is looking at 2 candidates, one who has got disabilities and one who hasn't, and they have got to pay them both the same rate, I invite you to guess which one the employer is more likely to take on. Given that some of those people with a learning disability clearly, by definition, cannot be productive in their work as someone who has not got a disability of that nature, then it was inevitable that, given the employer was going to have to pay them both the same, they were going to take on a person who was going to be more productive, less of a risk. Wow. He's saying people with learning disabilities clearly by definition cannot be as productive. I don't know how you feel about that. Here's how Philip Davies voted on other key issues from the public whip. Oh, this was the source from the public whip. The voting record from public whip, how Philip Davies voted on key issues. He voted very strongly against a more proportional system for electing MPs. Damn right he did. He doesn't want to vote in anything that makes it easier for him to lose his job. And remember, he only won his first. He only got into Parliament on a very slim 422 margin. He voted moderately against automatic enrolment in occupational pensions. He voted a mixture of for and against encouraging occupational pensions. He voted very strongly for increasing the rate of VAT. Oh, that's nice of him. He voted very strongly for an investigation into the Iraqi war. Oh, that's nice. He voted moderately against Labour's anti-terrorism laws. Voted very strongly against allowing ministers to intervene in inquests. He voted against removing hereditary peers from the House of Lords, and he voted strongly against a wholly elected House of Lords. Oh, so he's okay for it to be jobs for the boys. Of course, he's one of those boys. He's got a very nice job. Hey, and he's got a nice little side hustle. Filling in surveys for 75 to 150 quid. Put down 30 to 40 minutes. Takes me 3 to 4 minutes. He voted very strongly for replacing Trident. Hello, we have someone in the chat. Hello, Bruce. Hello, Bruce. Hello, Bruce. You caught me in this caught me just reminiscing through old blogs, mate. But thanks for coming in, saying hi. So look, we'll quickly get this. You can see for yourself what he voted for. He voted strongly against laws to stop climate change. Oh, very sensible. He voted strongly against introducing ID cards. Oh, that's good to hear. I thought he would have voted strongly for introducing ID cards. Interesting. That shows he doesn't, he's got a secret life. He voted for a stricter asylum system. He voted very strongly against university tuition fees. That's good. Voted against raising England's undergraduate tuition fee cap to £9,000 per year. Voted very strongly against the smoking ban. Voted very strongly against more EU integration. You know what I'm trying to say. That word. When you integrate. Integration, that's the word. Integration. He's never voted on a transparent parliament, sorry. Has never voted on a transparent parliament. He doesn't want transparency in parliament. I'd rather abstain. And voted moderately for greater autonomy for schools. So here we have 1 in a million. Let's see him in action.
Philip Davies.
Speaker, 1 in a million free school in Bradford is due to open in September, and I know that they would very much like the Secretary of State to come and open it. But before he does that, would he agree to meet with me so that we can discuss the capital allocation to that school, so we can make sure that when it does open in September, in a much needed part of Bradford, it opens with the chance of giving the students there the best possible opportunity?
The honourable gentleman is 1 in a million, and I will look forward to meeting him. I think there's an opportunity in the diary at 11 o'clock this Wednesday for us to have a cup of tea. I'm committed to doing everything I can to improve education in Bradford. It's a great city, and it has some great representatives.
Oh, please, God. He's 1 in a million. Oh, my God. Whew. This guy's a psychopath. 1 in a million, as Michael Gove fondly sees him. At worst, he's a murdering paedophile, and at best, a paedophile sympathiser. Now, that, I think, is a bit harsh, okay? I don't know who wrote this. Actually, I did. But I think that's a bit harsh. I don't know what I was thinking back in 2010 when I wrote this. At worst, he's a murdering paedophile, and at best, a paedophile sympathiser. I think that is OTT myself, and I wrote it. He used a corporate freebie to travel to Florida to visit death row at the Florida State Penitentiary. This could be why I thought he may have been a psychopath, but it's not even. Listen, thinking someone's a psychopath is a million miles from calling someone a paedophile, and I think it's bang out of order that he should be. That I should say, at worst, he's a murdering paedophile, and at best, a paedophile sympathiser. That is totally out of order. I don't know why I came to that conclusion, and I take that back. 13 years on, I take that back. But as I wrote back in 2010, he, talking about Shipley MP Philip Davies, I think he is still the Shipley MP as well. I think Esther, somebody, she's an MP. Esther, the name will come to me. He's going out with Esther. But anyway, look, he used a corporate freebie from the gambling industry, I think, to visit Florida, to visit death row at the Florida State Penitentiary. The BBC Sunday Politics Yorkshire and Lincolnshire followed Philip Davies to the US, where he sat in a chair used to kill prisoners as part of a fact-finding mission looking at the case for capital punishment. Oh wow, shit, yeah, he got a freebie to go out and assess whether, fucking hell, sorry, I'm a bit taken back. This was on a fact-finding mission to decide to vote whether the UK should bring back capital punishment. As I wrote back in 2010, yes, he actually sat in the electric chair as a photo opportunity. And that's why I called the man a psychopath, because come on, who would choose to sit in a fucking electric chair as a photo opportunity? Hey, I'm not here to tell anyone, but it's only natural to judge people. I mean, I've moved on now. I wrote this in the third, fourth dimensions of fear and control back in the day, 2010. I'm now living in the fifth dimension, babe. You know what I mean? But listen, yes, he actually sat in the electric chair as a photo opportunity. I wrote back in 2010, the man is a psychopath, obviously thinking of getting himself one for his concealed torture dungeon back home. It's only a joke. That was a joke. Obviously thinking of getting himself one for his concealed torture dungeon back home. It happens. Don't tell me it doesn't happen, because we know it happens. People do have concealed dungeons in their basements, and that's a fact. I'm not making that up. No. As I continue. And since when is the Conservative Party considering the reintroduction of the death penalty? You know what I mean? So why on earth is he getting a freebie to go out into Florida to research how capital punishment is conducted by other countries? When, as I make the point, I ask the question: since when is the Conservative Party considering the reintroduction of the death penalty? Since when is the EU considering it? Why was this man allowed to go on a free holiday to Disneyland on the premise of researching a subject which is against the law in the UK? So this is my little meme, Philip Davies, sitting on an electric chair as a photo opportunity. Ooh, nice, an electric chair. I must get myself one of these for my basement torture dungeon back home. Watch it. Death row trip for Tory MP who wants death penalty. Let's watch it. Oh, no. I think that has been moved. I think the video has been moved. As I say, psychopath is a personality disorder that has been variously characterized by shallow emotions, including reduced fear, a lack of empathy and stress tolerance, cold-heartedness, egocentricity, superficial charm, manipulativeness, irresponsibility, impulsivity, criminality, antisocial behaviour, a lack of remorse, paralytic lifestyle. I think that last thing, paralytic. That's the word I'm looking for. A paralytic lifestyle is something that sums up Philip Davies. That's just my opinion. I'm putting that out there. Fact. This is what talk about a paralytic lifestyle. This is what he's claimed. Communications, £14,931. Office costs, £14,603. Stationery alone. Fucking stationery alone. 4,748. Hello, Mandy. Good to have you. Staff costs, £100,599. His own wage, £64,766. And his second home, he claimed £23,866. In total, he's ripped off from the taxpayer through the tax year of 2008 to 2009, £236,000. 236,024 pound. £236,024. Fucking hell. I mean, sorry to swear, but that is staggering for someone who's so vocal in calling out other people. But isn't that so common? Isn't that so common now in the world we live in? If someone uses a fraudulent blue badge that they have cooked up and designed to look like the real thing, they effectively take a space from someone who needs it. Right back at you, Philip Davies. Because by the sounds of it, you are fraudulently taking the place in which real good can be achieved. You are taking the place of a real politician. What fraudulent claims are you cooking up and designed to look like the real thing, which effectively takes away resources from someone who needs it? It's a lax regime. He should know he's milking it. Shipley constituents need to ask what he does for his wage. By his own admission, not enough. Let's listen to him.
Now, you were elected in 2005. What was the driving force that brought you into politics and made you want to stand in the election?
Well, I was always interested in politics. I was brought up to be interested in politics.
Yeah, I understand your father is he the mayor of Doncaster?
He is the mayor of Doncaster, and I was brought up in Doncaster. And at the time, he's not in the Conservative Party now, but at the time he was. And there aren't many Conservatives in.
Wow, that goes to prove he had a privileged upbringing. you know why he got a leg up, a hand up, a pull up.
Doncaster. And as soon as I was old enough to deliver leaflets and knock on doors, and he had me out delivering leaflets and knocking on doors, and I loved elections. Absolutely loved elections, and we never used to win any, but it was great fun. And so, that sort of stimulated my interest in politics. And so wherever I was, I always used to join up to the local Conservative Association and offer to help at elections. But I never really sort of expected to get into Parliament or even had a driving motivation to do that. But it got to the stage where I lost faith in politicians of all parties, really. And
why did you lose faith?
Because I got to the stage where I thought that nobody ever seemed to stand up and say the things I wanted to be said. Okay. And I think for a democracy to work, for a parliamentary democracy to work, everybody in the country's got to feel that somebody's speaking up for them. And I got to the stage where I felt that nobody was really speaking up for me. And I just thought that rather than going down to the pub on a Friday night and complaining about it, you should try and do something about it yourself. And if no one else was going to say the things that you wanted to be said, well, you should go and say them yourself. So that's what stimulated me into wanting to get onto the candidates list and stand for Parliament.
Okay, and what do you feel you've achieved since May 2005?
Not enough, but it's always harder in opposition to achieve things when a government's bringing in things that you can't stand and knowing that they can get their business through with.
So he acknowledges he hasn't achieved enough. Too busy doing those surveys, wasn't he?
There with them.
I mean, when you're paying £236,000, you expect that money to be enough. You expect achievements. You expect results. Just saying.
Majority of over 60. But the two things I think I would like to think anyway is I would like to think that one, I've represented my constituents to give them a very high level of service in terms of the.
Wow! So he reckons he's delivered a high level of service, spending all his time doing online surveys and charging for and costing them £236,000.
Speed of dealing with them and the accessibility of dealing with them and
come on, he leaves all that to the staff while he's in his office doing his surveys, which he lies. It says it takes him up to 30 to 40 minutes, but it must be taking him 3 to 4 minutes, and he's spending the rest of the time doing what most politicians do in their offices alone with closed doors,
tackling the problems and getting involved in local issues and local campaigns and always being about and available. So I'd like to think I've helped make politicians more accessible to my constituents, for one thing. And the second thing that I'm probably most proud of is that I think I have raised things in Parliament that if I wasn't there, nobody else would have done.
Can you give me an example, please?
For example, launching the Better Off Out campaign in Parliament. I mean, until then, there was no MP would openly stand up and say we should leave the EU. And now in our joint Lords and Commons Better Off Out group, we've got about 35 people who are openly members of Better Off Out. And I think that the nature of the debate in
Oh, there you go. He was one of the instigators of us leaving Parliament. Go, Philip, go. I'm sure lots of people are saying.
About Europe has changed. You know, it is now discussed about leaving the EU in a way it was never even talked about before. I think, you know, some of the things about on climate change would never have been mentioned. I've made speeches criticising sex education in schools and things like that, which was another taboo subject that nobody was ever able to criticise. Some
Is
of
that
the elements
understand you don't believe sex education should be taught in schools? Parents should do it themselves?
I don't think more. Well, that's if you don't mind, a slightly simplistic précis of my position.
No,
it's
that's
not.
fine.
It's not a question of, you know, I don't believe it should be taught. I think that I have many concerns about sex education taught in schools, and my point is that actually the fact that people propose the solution to teenage pregnancies and unwanted pregnancies is more and more sex education is just ridiculous. And you know, and I initiated a debate on that, quoting what happened. I spent months looking at what happens in other countries around the world, countries like Holland and Italy and other countries that are far better, to show that actually sex education was not the solution to that particular problem. And I think that, you know, whether people agree with me or not, I'm quite proud of the fact. I think there are people who certainly do agree with me, and I would like to think I've at least given those people a voice in Parliament, that they can look and think, well, actually somebody is actually speaking up about things in a way that if I wasn't there, I don't think anybody else would.
Oh, okay. Make of that what you will. Make of that what you will. So, when asked in an interview what his achievements have been since becoming an MP in 2005, he answered not enough. But he does single out two things which he likes to think of as accomplishments. One, He represented his constituents, giving them a very high level of service, being fast and accessible and getting involved with local issues. Well, you'd like that for £236,000 a year, wouldn't you? You would expect a very high level of service, fast and accessible, and getting involved with local issues. At least you get something back for your money. He is most proud to have raised things in Parliament that other people wouldn't have done, like sex education, climate change. Because no one is talking about climate change, were they? Well, maybe not back then, in 2010, such as launching the Better Off Out. Well, there you go. He's saying, at least I started the debate of getting us out of Europe. In Europe campaign, in which no MP would stand up and say we should leave the EU. But Philip did. Some of the things on climate change which would never have been mentioned without me. Wow. So Philip Davies has an enhanced opinion of his own ego, as a psycho would. I think it's fair to describe him as a psychopath, based on a definition of psychopath. I don't think it's fair calling him a murdering paedophile, at worst. So listen, Simon Kirby, and to think Simon Kirby has chosen this man as his partner in crime. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Philip Davies and Simon Kirby have influential backers. Philip Davies has Lord Ashcroft, and Simon Kirby has Norman Baker, also mentioned on the David Joe Nielsen tax files. You see, and now this is the connection, because at the time he was the transport minister. Let's delve deeper. Honestly, it just goes on and on and on, doesn't it? How else could the bill be given the nod and passed through without a second reading? Which takes us to back to the whole point of this blog. But listen, I'm just going to get myself a drink, talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back in a mojo. You'll have to remind me to clip off that TikTok. Hello everyone, how's everyone doing? Oh, thanks ever so much for joining me. Looking back on my old blogs, 2010. This was my first investigative journalism expose, and I thought I'd done a good job of it. Anyway, back to it. Where are we? How else? And this goes right back to this law, the Blue Badge Bill, being turned into law on the nod without a second reading. Let's leave the last word to Norman Baker, MP of Lewis, and the Transport Minister, who reveals the truth of the matter as he sums up. There is a consultation process underway on the personal independence payment, but the government's preferred opinion is one of minimum change. It is not in any way our intention to reduce the number of people who qualify for a badge. The consultation has been necessitated by the changes to the nature of benefits being brought in by the Department for Work and Pensions. But so far as the Department for Transport is concerned, of which he was the Minister for, we want the result of any consequential changes to stay as close as possible to the current arrangements. That is our preferred option, but obviously we will look at the responses to the consultation. In other words, the government doesn't want any change. They are happy for the number of blue badge holders to remain the same, but are obliged to tinker with the statute books to accommodate the new Personal Independence Payment, PIP, replacing the Disability Living Allowance, DWA, in April 2013. This obviously wasn't written in 2010, could it? No, because I wouldn't have known. So this must have been written in 2015, sorry. So, listen, summing up. Yes, it's good to have people watching. Summing up. This is about a psychopathic Philip Davies wanting to punish people for his own statistic ends. Okay? And he does use that. He says he's draconian because he wants to punish people for this. This is about Simon Kirby scoring points and basking in the glory of playing the system so skillfully. That was what was said. You know, this is quote from Philip to Simon. He said Simon plays the system so skillfully. This is about Norman Baker and a Conservative cabinet fraudulently slipping in legislation that puts plainclothes inspectors on the streets with the power of confiscation in anticipation of a full enforcement of a biometric ID scheme. This is deep stuff. As I make the point, make no mistakes. Dangerous men like Philip Davies and Simon Kirby don't get where they are without considerable help along the way. Philip Davies is being groomed for greatness, mark my words. And as the trolley boy doesn't win an election in 2005 by 422 votes, and then by a majority of 10,000 4 years later, without lots of money and lots of fraud, watch out for him. I would like to make a point that I don't know for sure whether Philip Davies wasn't as the trolley boy. All I do know for sure is that he worked for Asda for a year. So I'll just have to put that out there. You know, listen, I wrote this back in 2015. I reckon it. Well, 2015, between 2010 and 2015. Now, obviously, between 2013 and 2015, I'm babbling. Philip Davies, whatever the Conservatives want to dish out, their party line, but are too scared to say it, they send out Philip Davies, 1 in a million, man of the hour, the UK's version of George W. Bush. Yeah, that was my own observation. I made the observation that, and you know, and if you keep an eye on Philip Davies, he does this. Whenever the Conservative Party want to get out a nasty message, a message that they'd rather not have associated with them, but needs to be told to the public, who's the man they go to? Yeah, 1 in a million, Philip Davies. Let's not forget Simon Kirby. He knows what he's doing. He's getting praised for being an old hand and a smooth operator when it comes to getting a bill through the statute books. Perhaps the old hand shake of the mason makes everything more slippery and durable. There's a lot I can share with you about Simon Kirby, and there's a lot about his downfall, because he was in the Treasury, but he got slated. There was something happened, okay? it's all there in my memory banks. A decision was made. He took the fall for it, and he got lambasted by the professionals. They just said the guy's out of his depth, does not know what he's doing, and like fucks everything up. And then, but anyway, so this could well do with a part 3, like a 10-year later type thing. So, the Nelson Crime Files is a collection of damning documents which indict up to 50 police officers and 300 government officials in corruption and fraud and cover-up. The evidence is here. So let's just, there we go. Dangerous. I cannot even share the link. I cannot even share the link. That's dangerous information, that is. You did not hear it from here. You did not see it on here. Okay, you did not see that information on here, and I'm not in a position to share the Nelson Crime Files. I repeat, the Nelson Crime Files is a collection of damning documents which indict up to 50 police officers and 300 government officials in corruption, fraud, and cover-up. The evidence is here, but I cannot encourage you to click. Do not click reverse psychology and all that jazz. I'm being serious. I am being serious. We're touching on very dangerous subject matters here. So, as a disclaimer, on behalf of blah blah doo doo and shit fuck, in accordance to YouTube guidance lines and blah blue blibbly blops, I'm being serious. You never saw anything. It's an old Jedi mind trick I'm doing. You never saw a thing. Let's move on. Philip Davies and Simon Kirby should be given a taste of their own medicine. They need to be locked away for 6 months for defrauding the public, for taking up the space of 2 MPs, which could be better used by more competent people. Arrest these MPs for fraud. This is a party political investigation by the SOS Party. There you go. Hope everyone enjoyed that. In fact, let me just see. That should be a link. No, that's not a link. That isn't in use anymore. There you go. So, hope you enjoyed that, everyone. I've been babbling far too long. Yeah, so that was a blast from the past, wasn't it? That was my first investigative investigation. Is disclosure coming? That's the big question. That's the big question. So, where are we? Oh yeah, this is what I want to check out. The Child Protection Advocate on TikTok calls for more government accountability after recording state media trolling incident. Let's check it out. While I've got your attention, we shall check it out. Mandy says a massive number of suicides with people that their PIP taken off them, that I read in the Guardian a while back. I know, it's dreadful stuff. It's dreadful. It is, and it's all the more reason why we should change the system, man. Change the system. Disclose everything. It's the fifth dimension thing to do. But anyway, I want to show you the latest article on Guerrilla Democracy News. So, Child Protection Advocate on TikTok calls for more government accountability after recording a state media trolling incident. And this is by Ben Westwood. Back on the 12th of July, writer, poet and child protection advocate Ben Westwood, decided to have a rant on TikTok about his disheartened feelings of how celebrity abuse often shadows the knowledge of abuse within people's own local communities. The last thing he expected was to be trolled from an account that claimed to be a state-sponsored media. 77 Brigade springs to mind. Initially, Westwood was confused with the comment left on his TikTok video from a user going by the name of Monty from an account Mark Montgomery 09, which read, "Blah blah blah, you got me, blah blah blah, I'm a victim, poor me." In quotations. When I read the comment, it had struck me as a little weird, says Westwood. The language in it seemed to appear as some sort of bot or something because it didn't completely correlate with the stuff I was actually saying in the video. So I decided to take a deeper look at who this person was. I just happened to click on this tiny small grey circle with an exclamation mark on it, and a box appeared telling me that it was a state-controlled account. I shall repeat that for dramatic effect. I just happened to click on this tiny small grey circle with an exclamation mark on it, and a box appeared telling me that it was a state-controlled account. Again, 77 Brigade springs to mind. Back to the article. Exclusively on Guerrilla Democracy News, I hasten to add. Although Westwood admits he's unsure of exactly which government state this account is linked to, he claims that this isn't the first time being trolled on the internet, in which only in recent months a Canadian YouTuber that he'd supported was due to feature in a book he was writing launched a malicious hate campaign which he suspected may have been linked. Regardless, this event, which he captured on video before the account had changed their settings to remove the government notice, raises many questions as to which state exactly troll and troll protection advocates online and why. Ben Westwood says, "A few people have admitted to me that they never really believed me when I said previously that I suspected internet sabotage and the black hat shadow banning was happening in my life. This is a big thing for me because I'm not just a crazy to anyone anymore. I could actually prove it," he says. The question as to whether Westwood's videos was down to individual targeting or a more generalized approach to child protection remains to be answered, but he calls for more accountability from government and its security services in regards to where it places its priorities. So let's watch this then. Watch now. No. This isn't it, is it? Here we go.
In my work for the last 5 years, I've been aware of it. Some of you will be aware that I've been talking about this for years. Nobody really believes me. They all think I'm a madhead. Watch what I'm about to show you. Right, so I've just made this video here talking about, what's the title of it anyway? And it's talking about child abuse, and it's talking about the fact that people don't listen to the people on the ground and that we fall for the stuff anyway. I got a bit wondering what this comment here was for. This geezer called Monty started saying, "Blah blah blah, you got me, blah blah blah, I'm a victim, poor me." And I thought that's a bit weird, which is why I've said, "What are you a nonce?" You know. But then I started thinking that's too weird. Why would somebody do that? So I started checking him out. Watch this. I'm going to click on his profile. Watch this. Right, there's his profile. Just seems normal. I click this little thing here. Watch this. And then it comes up with that. What does state-controlled media mean? The government has control over the account's editorial content.
Fucking hell, that's big.
Man, I've been bloody right all
77.
this time.
Yeah.
This is what's going
There
on,
you go.
folks.
You heard it here first.
It's
Thanks,
not the world
Ben.
ain't what you think it is.
Yeah, there we go. Another video.
I've accidentally made it public knowledge that there seems to be a government-sponsored trolling agenda for those that talk about child protection. So on one of my last videos, if you don't already know, I started talking about serious child protection issues that we all can gather what I'm talking about, and I got a mad troll comment, it seemed. I thought that was a bit weird, and I clicked on it, and it said it was from a government account, pretty much. I looked into it, and it does seem that it's kind of a government-sponsored state account. Which government, we don't know, but it does seem to fit in with what a few of us started to realise is the 77th Brigade. It's been out, it's common knowledge, it's public knowledge. They're supposed to be there, they're like a disinformation unit. So what are they doing? Trying to silence those that speak about serious child protection issues. I kind of filmed it. I was lucky that I clicked that little icon where it said it was a government profile, and I filmed it and I put it straight up, and as soon as I put that straight up, they changed the profile where so you can't see that little thing it clicks, but it's too late now, the cat's out the bag. So what's this mean for my life, my future, knowing how deep the rabbit hole goes, knowing what strings have been pulled behind the scenes, because I've been smelling more than just this for a long time. What this means in terms of the latest sabotage before that, in terms of the lad from Canada that I was going to have in my book that started making malicious videos about me, and how I learnt that there were trolls that have been sabotaging my books on Amazon for the last few years, and they've been in communication, all these people. Is this all completely interlinked? It all needs to be looked at, because there is something going on in my life the last 5 years. Anyway, just wonder what this means, where we go from this now that I've got some kind of proof that this is happening. We don't know exactly where from, but it does seem to fit this narrative of what people are saying, that this is the 77th Brigade, and now if it's not the 77th Brigade, that unit seriously need to start looking into what's going on, because people are starting to think it's them. And if it is them, we need to ask, why the heck is this happening with taxpayers' money and taxpayers' time? The priorities are totally backwards. What darkness is going on there? But what's this mean for my life? I think I didn't mean to kind of expose that, and I have now. Is this just going to be carrying on in silence, or is this going to be actually become spoken about? Who knows? Anyway, my 3 minutes recording this video's up. I don't know if anything's going to happen. Take care, folks. Bye bye.
Wow, there you go. You can contact Ben at benwestwooduk@gmail.com. I say, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. It seems to be we're in a situation in which anyone who speaks about child abuse in any way, shape or form gets trolled by government agencies. As he pointed out, he clicked on the little grey information circle, and it reveals to be a state-controlled media account. Well done for the platform who was showing that. You know, it's there. The information is available. This is all about disclosure now. It's time to disclose. We're going to come up to 2 hours. I'll wrap it up. Thanks ever so much, everyone, for joining me. You've been watching Matt Taylor TV. Thank you ever so much. Thanks for everyone jumping in. A big shout out to Mandy Marlins. Mandy Marlins is my #1 subscriber. I think we got a shout out. Shout out to Mandy in the house. #1 subscriber. As always, shout out to the show sponsor, Brian PC. None of this would have been possible. We have some people that sadly missed, but still around. Shout out to Katie. Katie's always worth a shout out to. as is Captain Justice. Whistleblower or snitch? He's a dirty snitch. Anyway, you can follow me on Twitter at King Arthur II and Satanic Matt. You are watching Matt TV live from Brighton, UK. Check out my blog, Brighton2222project.wordpress.com. I am a prolific blogger, and you can find all my blogs. As you see, my blogs have been going across the screen for the last 2 hours. Check out Guerrilla Democracy News, broadcasting live from Brighton. News the mainstream media dare not report. And what just happened there, I just showed you an exclusive press release, exclusive to Guerrilla Democracy News, by Ben Westwood, proving government interference with him pushing out his message of child advocacy. So it seems like anyone who's talking about child abuse, the cover-up of child abuse, how to deal with child abuse, the solutions to addressing child abuse, helping themselves come to terms with their child abuse they had, trying to find remedy in the trauma in which child abuse inflicts upon its victims. All discussion is being trolled by government accounts. As Ben said himself, the 77th Brigade. And we know there's people out there who include 77 in their usernames. And that's an indication that if they're not directly paid for by the 77th Brigade, they identify as the 77th Brigade. Compre? I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. So listen, thanks ever so much. Oh, Legend Plisco. How are you, Plisco? Well, preferably I won't let you in because you're a bell end. Oh, look, mate, it doesn't matter. I don't give a flying fuck what your questions are. Well, look, why should I answer a porn bomber? Yeah, if your words aren't allowed in a court of law, why should I allow your words on Matt Taylor TV? You're a porn bomber. So why would I give a porn bomber any? Why would I give a porn bomber any of my time? I don't get it. Because you're a discredited porn bomber. You're a man of disrepute. You're a man of bad character. Your words mean nothing because you are a porn bomber. Don't make me laugh, you bellend. Yeah, you know I have, for a harassment. Well, yeah, because well done. Oh, talking about 77th Brigade, and guess who turns up? Plisco the bellend. Why don't you fuck off, Plisco? I'm wrapping up the show. Bye-bye, you bellend. Oh, fuck off, you knob sucker. How boring is that? Anyway, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste my time with the 77th Brigade. But isn't that interesting? Talking about it, who turns up? Plisco the bellend. And if any of you don't know who Plisco the bellend is, Plisco the bellend is a very dangerous porn bomber on YouTube. He's been personally responsible for losing me countless, I say countless, YouTube channels. Horrible individual. I have not got any time for Plisco the bellend. But listen, I'd just like to remind you all what you've endured over the last 2 hours. Before I do so, shout out to Mandy and Bruce. Thank you ever so much. And I know Brian PC was watching too. Please, no need to text me during a show. Okay? The chat room's there. You can always make yourself known in the chat room. So, 2 hours. you've joined me. Thank you for joining me on this. We've just done some reminiscing. We went over my first investigative journalism into the blue badge scheme, a law which went through on the nod, I tell you, which went through on the nod. Now listen, it's worthy of a part 3, because the part 3 will reveal to you that no one has been pulled up under the blue badge laws. So the whole thing was a waste of time. And also in part 3, if I ever when I get round to writing it, we will be an update on Simon Kirby, because in that we just concentrated on the Shipley MP, Philip Davies. I did describe him as, at worst, a murdering paedophile. I take that back. I apologise for saying that. I do apologise. That was 10 years ago plus. That was the 3rd, 4th dimensions of fear and control. I'm in the 5th dimension, baby. I take that back. That wasn't very nice. I've been at the receiving end of that, and I just like to say I'm sorry. Anyway, book yourself a seat around King Arthur's round table. You can contact me by email at theworldaccordingtomattTaylor@gmail.com. Listen, you can support the channel with a financial donation. It's the American thing to do. It's a tip. Any little tip helps, okay? My out costs include £9.99 a month to Clip Champ. So even a little contribution helps towards covering the fees of bringing you cutting edge entertainment. And of course, for every donation, you're more than welcome to head over to lulu.com. Just put in Taylor Tales, a collection of 20 true life stories, into the search engine, and you can download yourself a free download of 20 brutally honest true life stories from my life. The last one being when I took my mother away to die. So listen, you've been watching Matt Taylor TV. I'm not responsible or liable or necessarily agree or disagree with what's being said by anyone on the brand new Matt Taylor TV YouTube channel. The sole intention of this channel is to have fun and enjoy YouTube, and I hope you've had fun with me today. I've certainly had fun with you. We're coming up to the last 2 minutes. Listen, I love anyone and everyone coming onto the show, but what I cannot abide are bell-end porn bombers. I will be going over to Danny Bones and his crew the next time he's live. Until the next time, we're coming into the last minute. Thank you ever so much, everyone, for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed the content, give it a thumbs up. It's the least anyone can do for wasting 2 hours of your day, which you'll never get back. But I like to think I've educated you and entertained you at the same time. I brought you information about Philip Davies, which you otherwise may not have known. I've made amends by apologising for calling him, at worst, a murdering paedophile. Not nice. I stick by my thing that he could well be a psychopath, based on the definition of psychopaths. I'd also like to point out the press release, the latest article on Guerrilla Democracy News, exclusive to Guerrilla Democracy News, proof that trolls do work for the government. It was a government-sponsored account. Ben recorded it live as it happened. The proof is there. The proof is on Guerrilla Democracy News. Okay? You don't get any truth out of anyone. And just as we were talking about 77th Brigade, who should turn up? Yeah, you got it. The bellend himself, Plisco. Listen, everyone, it's been great. It's been 2 hours. Thank you for sharing this time with me. And remember, King Arthur loves you.